Today is the 16th of August, which is a Sunday, and I work 7 days a week. I don't take any rest. As with many of these jobs that I do, I suddenly realized that while I'm doing them, I should be videoing it because some of you will want to see what I do. I have in fact worked on these trees for the last 3 days. I worked on them on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And of course today I have Josh, my volunteer, who is here to help do little jobs, especially on trees. And I was pruning some of these trees with him and he said, why don't you do a video? And I said, oh yes, why didn't I think of that? So this is what I've been doing since last Friday. And look at all this heavy pruning I've been doing. So I'm not making bonsai, I'm making these large garden trees which are shaped like bonsai. So this one has already been done. And you can see the amount that I've taken off. This top came from the very top of that tree, and Josh was counting. If we come close, the rings are very, very close. I would say, if you pause your video, you can see, count the rings. I would say there must be at least 20 rings there from this tiny branch. So this is a very old tree. Look at the size of the trunk there, and it's only growing in this pot. So these are the dwarf Scots pine, Pinus sylvestris bouverensis, and when I bought them 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, they were only like no bigger than this, about 60 centimeter high. And I planted them in my field in the ground for the first 15 years, and then the next 15 years they were lifted up, put in pots, and then progressively put in larger and larger pots. And while they're growing, I prune them and tidy them up. So if we come around, I will show you what I've been doing. You can see, look at this tree from here. If you look at this tree, now all these trees like bonsai have a front. So this is the front of the tree. So what I try to do is open up the tree so that you can see the trunk and a dome shape. And this is the type of niwaki I do. And I was quite pleased to see when I went to Japan about 20 years ago, there are some niwaki are pruned in this modern style. So they don't have to be these classic tall niwaki. So they do these squat ones. And this bouverensis is a beautiful variety. I've just started pruning that. I haven't finished it. This one I've also done. If you have a look at it from this side, this is the front. Can you see this beautiful trunk? And I've created spaces between the branches. Beautiful trunk and the bark. Look at that. So with beautiful trunks and bark like this, there's no point hiding it. So this is what we do, and at this time of the year I will show you how the general care. You can see what I've taken off. You see lots of branches have been taken off. These small branches have all been pruned out, but the tips I have pruned. So all these tips, I just go around like this, and this is what keeps it small. It's a tedious job. Can you imagine a tree like this? It would take you the best part of an hour just to go around and prune every single tip off to keep it compact, and hopefully it will also bud back. Some of these thin straggly things we cut out because they would die anyway. That has yet to be done, but it's not all pines here. This is a juniper that I grew from a small bush. I've grown it for maybe 40 years because I had it with me from my previous house in Purley. And this variety is Juniperus chinensis, but the variety is called grey owl, OWL. And look at the berries on this tree. Look at the beautiful juniper berries. And it has this greyish foliage, and I will show you, rather than do the pine, let me show you very quickly how I would tackle this tree. Now this is a twin trunk, so this is quite a challenging tree, but I have already created some pads, but if you don't watch it, the pads tend to merge into each other. So I will just show you. It's very important to take the tips out, because if you take the tips out, then you get the bushiness. So if you don't take the tips out, it will just get long and it will cease to be compact. So we're applying all the standard bonsai pruning principles on these large trees. It's just that these are on a much larger scale. And as I always say, I'm very fortunate that here in the UK we have customers who have large gardens and they like these large semi-bonsai. Just prune the ends. You notice I wear a glove because these secateurs are very sharp. I'm very conscious that it is a dangerous implement. And when I work fast, I work very, very fast. You can easily slice your finger off, which I've done about 4 or 5 times in my bonsai career. Again, the principle is to be bold. You know, don't hang around, hesitate what to cut, what not to cut. You see, I created the space there, created the space here. I was quite amused. Only earlier this week I had someone ask me to come and prune his big maple, and I said I can. It was a 20-foot maple. That means 20 foot is what, about 5 meters or so, 6 meters, large tree. And I had a look at the photograph. I said I can do it in a few hours. So he asked me how much I would charge him, and I told him what I would charge, only like 300 or 400 pounds. He couldn't believe that, and couldn't believe it because he thought I was charging too much. He said just for a couple of hours work. I said that tree would take 2 men about 2 days to do it if it was someone else. So that's the speed at which I work. But I'm not offended. People who know how I work are only too pleased to have me do their trees. I have no shortage of work. It's a long while since I've been to Wisley, but the Royal Horticultural Society is a garden at Wisley. I have always been teaching the staff there how to do artistic pruning, how to prune the trees on the rockery, and how to prune the trees generally in an artistic fashion. So it's not just hacking it about. So at the moment I'm just taking these long tips out, you see, and that will create the density. Now the tree is on that side viewing, the front is on that side. So all these trees have a front and back. I think if we come around the back, Josh, you can just see what I'm doing. The back is very dense. Sometimes the back tends to get neglected because we take the attitude that because it's the back no one sees it. But I think it should be nice from every side. So I'm just creating the spaces for pads. Very dense. I think we don't need these. We're not growing any sacrificial branches anymore. This is not a good variety for bonsai. I've tried for years making bonsai out of it. I know you can make bonsai from anything, but this is a very difficult variety to grow, and I don't like the grey color. It used to be a very popular conifer for rockeries. Those of you who are more mature will know that rockeries and rock gardens used to be quite popular back in the 60s, 70s and 80s. Planting dwarf conifers in rockeries and rockery plants. Even in Wisley they still have a rock garden. So rockery planting was quite a popular specialty in gardening. But nowadays I don't think many people are interested in that. All they do is plant colorful borders with mauve plants, blue plants, purple plants. So I'm trying to create a layer here. I think I can take these out. Do I need this? I don't need this. Let me get the loppers or saw and cut it off. I always believe that you can virtually shape and prune any conifer to make it into a nice garden tree. Okay, it's this one I don't think I need. I'll just keep a stump in case I need to develop a new pad at some stage. The other juniper that is not used much for bonsai is the Kaizuka or Hollywood juniper. I have a very huge one, and one of these days I will prune that as well. But in Japan, Kaizuka is used for making niwaki or garden trees. But for some reason they seldom ever use it for bonsai. Maybe because it's got a very lax, floppy habit. Okay, this is the right hand side. Now this side as well. This side is very dense. Look at all the stuff of these thrown away. Oh, another hot day. I thought it was going to rain, but the sun is coming out again. Another day of 35 degrees, I think. Oh, I wish I could offer all these berries to people who make gin. Look at it, covered thousands and thousands of juniper berries. Look at that. One thing I've never tried to do is grow junipers from seed. Pines can be grown from seed very easily, but junipers I've never tried. I guess you should be able to. You see, I'm trying to create a space there. In the first year, it may be not very visible, but in subsequent years, you will be able to see it. I'm trying to create the conical shape. That's what I'm looking to do. Do I need this? Maybe head it back there. Okay, now let's go to the other side. There's so much for the back. Now this is the front side. As I said, all these trees have a front and a back. So we've got this side. Now I've got to create this side. It's like a strange twin trunk. Very unusual style of twin trunk. Now this is popping up. I better reduce that. So this side is a classic bonsai shape. So the pads are nice over there. Now let's try to create a pad here. These trees are pruned once every other year. I leave it for 2 years for new shoots and branches to grow. So they don't need that much pruning. Same with the pines. These garden trees don't need as much care as a normal bonsai would. So you see how I've created the space there. It's all about creating the space. So I still reckon this is what we call just sophisticated topiary. But topiary in the Oriental style. Let's have a look. I have to keep standing back to see what it looks like. These tree stumps, by the way, are trees that I felled about 20 years ago, and they were these pines that I grew. When I came to Herons in 1986 in January, I planted 1,000 pines, and after about 15 or 20 years they grew sky high and they were no longer useful for bonsai, so I had to fell them all. And look at it, there's another stump there. So there were row upon row of pines, 1,000 pines, but they became too big for bonsai, so they had to be felled. And it just shows that you can be too greedy, just growing in the ground to thicken the trunks. And if you don't keep track of it, you will lose control. So that's another story. But every experience in life is a valuable lesson. So although I had to discard those trees, no experience is ever wasted. Every experience stands you in good stead later on. And I hope some of you will learn from my experiences as well. I'd like to share the experiences so that people can benefit from my experience. I wouldn't call it experience, learn from my wisdom. I don't have any wisdom. It's just that we all have experiences, and it's nice to share it with people. I'll make a little dome here. Later on I'll show you another juniper that's so nice that it's in another area, but it's made from the same material again. So if you look at it from here, I would say this tree is very presentable and someone will certainly want to buy it. This, I would say, must weigh, I think, getting on to half a ton, certainly about half a ton, maybe 3/4 of a ton. So whoever buys it will have to use a high-ab, a crane to lift it. But we do supply trees like this for large gardens. So this is going to be a nice large garden tree. Now I will take you to another area to show you a juniper that has been pruned, same species, but pruned in a completely different style. So I'm taking a break here. I've taken a walk around. Now if you come close, this is grey owl again. You see that greyish foliage? I bought about 3 of these trees from a British nursery in Woking back in the early 80s, maybe even the late 70s when I lived in Purley. And this was the nearest thing I could find that looks like a Chinese juniper, the kisu and all that. So I bought this, and this has got a single trunk. So this has been grown by me for at least 35 to 40 years. And this is all natural shari. This side I had cut off, so you can see the classic bonsai shape. So this really is a large bonsai, large bonsai. So it's all created by me. And just to show you, I in fact did an air layering from that branch. And this is grey owl again. Can you see? I did it just for fun. This is an air layering, and this was done from a branch of this tree. So this is what we do with these large trees. A number of people have expressed interest in it. So let's see what happens. Sometimes many people ask, do you ever not want to sell a tree? I think this is one of those trees that I don't want to sell, because I have devoted 40 years of my life to this tree just to get to this stage. Again, done without wiring, absolutely no wiring. It's just from pruning. Just by pruning, I've got the shape. And all I do is go around, take these long pointy shoots out, and that's how I keep it in shape. And I just clean between the pads, anything growing tall. If I wanted to, I could tie it with just string and lower it down. But there's that big tree with shari. So this is some tree. So we do crazy things here, but this is really what I enjoy. Natural shari, not created at all artificially. So while we are in this area, I will take you to another Bouverensis, and there are lots of junipers here. There's a Bouverensis, I think you may have to walk around, Josh, to see. This is a Bouverensis that hasn't been pruned yet, but this one here, so this is a huge beast. Of course, the secret of growing them well is to feed them. I don't think I've done much feeding this year, but it's time I did it. They respond extremely well to feeding. This is the ordinary Pinus sylvestris. Ordinary Scots. You see the difference in the needles? The color is slightly different. The Bouverensis is more blue. The Sylvestris is more green. And the needles are longer. And of course, my classic 4 trees. This I'm going to keep for another YouTube exercise. So be patient and you will see that being transformed either as a large bonsai or a garden tree. And those 4 big Scots vines, they were planted in the ground in 1991, and over the last 29 years it has developed. That one must be every bit, I would say, maybe 3 going on 4 meters high, and that's made from ordinary Scots pine. But this, on the other hand, is the Bouverensis. Look at it, it's got a slightly blue color, multi-trunk Bouverensis, and this has been grown in the ground. So when you grow Bouverensis in the ground, they're the same age as the ones I've been pruning. See the size of the trunk. They do become thick trunks. And this is unusual because it has got multi-trunk style. I love this tree. This is a weird creation. Very unconventional, but I'm very proud of it. And ordinary people love this because it's very dramatic. And certainly over the last 2 years, it has become bigger and bigger. Each year I take out about 30% of all the branches, and this is how I maintain it. There you go.